Well, welcome to another episode of Rimshots with Sean, brought to you by Barstools and Bandtalk. And my buddy Jamie Roberts down in New York always sends me some great clients of hers, and this is no exception. Hooked like Helen. So I have Nikki, I have Jon. Welcome, kids. How you doing? You had a long day for you guys so far.
Thank you.
Oh,
yeah, not bad.
but fun. Every day is fun.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So tell me, for my viewers that don't know about your act, tell me a little bit about it.
So, we are kind of an alternative rock duo, but we do play with a full band live. We also have Connor and Heather on guitar and drums, respectively, when we tour. We've been musicians our entire lives, but we started this project, Hooked Like Helen, almost 10 years ago now, but for like film and television sync music.
Oh, interesting.
We were just writing music in our little home studio, using the internet to just get out there writing for different projects, for like visually. And then just in this past year, just kind of due to some of the sync stuff, it's taken off, and we started touring we had our first tour in April and May of this year, and then we just got off of another one like 2 days ago. And so we're now releasing new music, singles, and we're going to probably be doing an album next year. And yeah, we're just having a lot of fun. Alternative rock kind of a vibe. I sing, I play keys. Jon plays bass.
Yeah. We rock out hard on stage.
So the term alternative, and I'll say this because I'm up in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So back in the 90s, when Nirvana and that whole Seattle thing kind of punched out, Sub Pop Records came up here and started scooping up a bunch of bands, and there's a number of bands that I unfortunately was on the outside looking in because I wasn't one of those type of bands. But your Jon, I guess your definition of alternative in today's marketplace would be what?
Man, that's a tough question, because growing up for me, alternative was like the Smashing Pumpkins and Green Day, the Deftones, and unfortunately today I think a lot of what they call alternative, for me, it doesn't sound like what alternative used to be. So I think it's very different. So alternative today for me, I think just means trying to go and do something that's not exactly like everybody else is doing in your genre, no matter really what genre that is. I don't know that alternative is a certain thing. Does that make sense?
It does, because to me, when you get alternative has a tag of different, or maybe it's independent or whatever, but then all of a sudden it becomes mainstream, and then you can't really call it alternative anymore because it's a mainstream of music. Fair enough?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, so we're the alternative to the alternative.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? But that's a hard place to be, right? Because as soon as you start to become mainstream, I apologize, I'm freezing up a little bit, but as soon as you start to become mainstream, then it's tough, because people, they used to be alternative, now they're not alternative. They've sold out, they're mainstream. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And so we just kind of are flying by the seat of our pants and just kind of doing our own thing, and just
we are very different,
taking it song by song, and just like, what does this song need, and not trying to sound like anybody else really, but just kind of trying to please ourselves and do what we think sounds good live, and what the fans are reacting to, and what they're connecting with, and just kind of taking it one song at a time.
So I'm always, sorry, Jon, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, we kind of just go for it. Like, we don't really have like a shtick of any kind, other than we just like show up and play and rock hard and do what we want, kind of, because that's kind of what rock and roll is to me. You know what I mean? Trying to be yourself, your own band, your own person.
Yeah, I mean, I find some forms of music can be so contrived. You can actually see how contrived it is, and people fall for it anyway. But that's fine. It is what it is. I've always fascinated with how bands come up with their names, and sometimes a cool name will be something that's kind of come up with in a silly way. And how did you guys land on that name, and what does it mean to you from a personal standpoint?
So Jon and I met out in LA. I grew up just north of LA. He moved out there to be in a band. We joined the same band, but the way that we met was due to a friend of mine named Helen. And it was weird because it was kind of like the path of like how we met and our paths crossed, if one of those ways didn't work out, another one would have. Like I knew Helen for like 10 different reasons, and she knew people that knew Jon. So it was like, it felt like a destiny
weird
thing, like
web.
a universe spider web, like we were meant to be together kind of a vibe. And so we were like, oh, we were like hooked by destiny through Helen. And then when I found out that I was pregnant with Jon's son,
Sure about that? No.
we I had to quit all of the things and become healthy. And one of the last things that I quit that I was hanging on to was Diet Coke. And that was something that Helen was very, very hooked on. And I was like, at least I'm not hooked like Helen. And then we were
And
like,
then when it's like ding 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 band name,
Band
and
name.
then you go to your notebook and you add it to like your 100 band names.
Yeah.
It's one of the
yeah. And then just because of the connection we had through Helen and just what a cool person she is, we were like, okay, that's the name.
yeah.
I like that story for a number of, but I'll tell you what, a big thing that's coming up on my podcast over the last little while is networking. And so that's a story really about networking. You guys met through networking, had your name through networking. Building your network. Sometimes it's like, oh, you're bringing it up again, Sean, but it's always good when I can talk to people and they can, I guess, emphasize what networking has done for their career, how is that a fair statement for you guys?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean,
100%.
especially when you like, I don't even think about that. Like it was networking.
Well,
It's how we met each other. Like,
we never considered each other, or I never considered myself good at networking.
No,
I was
we're
very
terrible.
shy and introverted, and that's not for me type guy. But
Yeah.
it is very, very important if you want to get places.
right. But just us, like, what's networking? It was actually just us like hanging out with other musicians that we thought were cool and good. Like Connor, who is playing guitar for us now, we met him over 10 years ago in LA because he was cool and we were going to each other's shows. We never even played in the same band back then. But then when we found out we had this tour last spring, it was like, well, who do we know that rocks? Because we need a guitar player. We got to go on tour. And we called Connor and he was down. And then he knew Heather and Heather was down. And so that's how that happened. And yeah, it is, networking is important. Making genuine connections with people, is super important.
Well, and
Sure.
I think it's weird for people because they think it has to lead to sales, or they think it has to lead to something. And really all you're doing is making friends, and you can immediately, like, just because you meet somebody doesn't mean that it'll ever go anywhere beside a friendship or whatever. It doesn't always lead to a business situation. And people, I think, make it weird because they put too much into their head on it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. And I think that was like us with the shy thing and just being like, we don't know how to do that. We're not salesmen and
We
we
don't
don't even
wanna
want to do that. Like,
Go to a show to network, like, you know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
It feels weird, but yeah, like you said, when you're just making friends, that is essentially what you're doing, and that is why we have a guitar player who's like a really good friend now.
right. And we made a lot of friends on tour too,
Yeah,
with the other bands, and their crews.
Both of the past tours, I mean, all we were doing was making friends, but now I guess I can look at it as networking because they all had jobs to do and they were extremely good at them. So whether we just end up friends, and like the drummer from Icon for Hire is the whole reason that we found our sub drummer for this last tour, was because we were buddies and I could ask him if he had any recommendations, and he did. So, and that's how we found our drummer. Boom,
Yeah.
networking.
Right. And I mean, there you go. And we've all learned something here today. And hopefully my audience has learned something here today, because I often get people that they talk about, oh, well, I should just be able to go play and I shouldn't have to promote and I shouldn't have, but it's like, okay, great. But then be happy with whatever audience you get, because they think they don't have to do that. They think somebody should have to do that for them. And you both know in this business, I'm sorry, people, that's rare if that happens, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, I've never seen it.
No,
Everybody I know that's anywhere has had to work their butt off
Yeah.
and do a million things. And especially
Absolutely.
you got to be good at a lot of different stuff that has nothing to do with music.
It's a
To
it's
just
a
music.
non-stop hustle, full-time everything.
Mhm.
You know what? We're going to end our first segment there, because I want to talk about that on the flip side when we come back after this. Welcome back to Rimshots with Sean. I am here with Jon. I am here with Nikki. Nikki, right?
Yep.
I said that right. Nikki.
Yeah, you spelled it
Oh.
right too.
There you go. Wild guess. Hanging like Helen. And so just before the break, we talked about many hats. And a lot of people, again, they don't realize, they think that, you guys might have been like me. You get started in the business and you think, you're going to have a show and you're going to have a sound man. You're going to have all these things. And you find out that a lot of it is very sterile. It's you doing your own thing. It's you driving your own shows, setting up your own gear. Talk a little bit about what that is like for you guys and how much of that you guys are currently doing to kind of push things forward.
Oh yeah. So we've been doing, all of the things this whole time. But touring is new, which is just a whole new set of things. We do feel lucky that we have, some solid people as far as like helping with merch and driving and stuff like that. But we're still driving, we're still parking the van, we're still schlepping all of the gear, which we don't mind because that's a good workout.
Yeah, no one's gonna do anything for you. We do everything.
We don't have a traveling front of house like sound person yet.
Right.
We think once we get a budget, that's probably going to be the next addition to
member.
the crew. However, on this last run, the venues we played, all of the front of house people were so good. All of the sound people were awesome. We feel like they did a great job. They knew what they were doing, and I feel like they made us sound our best. So I don't know.
But as far as many hats, so you're the driver, so you have to learn how to drive with a trailer. I mean, in some pretty serious spots, I learned trial by fire with Icon for Hire in pretty much every major city across America.
Well, and Sean from Icon for Hire has a ton of experience, so he really helped us out a lot.
So shout out to him for helping me get out of some tight spots.
Thanks, Sean.
Did a lot better on the second tour. Loading in, loading out, you're responsible. You have to make sure that you're not leaving stuff behind at every venue, which was a struggle for us at first. We kept leaving shit behind.
Yeah, you can't be buying a new microphone stand every single show.
Nope. That's fair. That's fair.
So there's that. Knowing when to leave for the show in the morning, how long you can sleep. You got to give yourself time to get there because
everything.
Flat tires happen. People have to go to the bathroom. Things happen. So you got to learn how to give yourself time.
Mm-hmm.
And then outside of touring, like, DIY, like, Nikki is a great songwriter.
Thank you.
But I've watched her over time also become a film editor, and I've watched her over time also become a photographer, and I've watched her over time become a web designer, and all these different things that you have to learn to be able to put all this music out there. It's not, you got to be able to do more than just write and perform a song if you want to be able to sustain.
Yeah.
It's it's interesting that you say that because a lot of people don't really know that side of it, right? Like they get involved and I don't want to say to the younger kids, but I mean, like I can remember when I started and went out there and it was like, I got to set up my own gear. I got to tune my own, and, but there's still an awful lot of that goes on. And even if people, a lot of the bands that were stars 20, 30 years ago have fallen back and they're kind of almost doing it, DIY again. Right. So, on your tour, and you mentioned, Nikki, you mentioned leaving stuff behind. How did that go for you guys? Like, was it fairly smooth? Were there ups or downs? I mean, I guess like anything, there would be ups or downs, but how did it go for you?
So it went pretty smooth. I think the fact that we're all sober, everybody in our van, is a huge advantage.
Right.
Because we are all like pretty responsible. All of us have been working really, really hard to make a career for ourselves in music for a long time. So we don't take for granted how lucky we are to get to go on tour and play for music fans every single night in all of these cool cities, in all these awesome venues. So we take it seriously. I mean, it's still rock and roll. We're still having a good time, but it's like, get there, do what you're supposed to do, keep your head together, And so it was very, very smooth. Honestly, we didn't even have like any issues.
This last tour was
no
awesome.
Crazy story of anything going terribly wrong.
Like I said, our first national tour was very much here it is, learn how to do it as you go.
Yeah, so just a little more chaotic, but I mean it was very smooth. It went good.
Yeah.
So knock on wood, the next one isn't a disaster.
Well, that's all you can ask for. Go back to the first segment. You guys mentioned that you're doing some sync work, which that can be very lucrative. That's an interesting business. There's all kinds of, I guess, different ways. I know some people that do it out in Phoenix where they just throw an awful lot of songs at the wall and hope something gets picked up. How long have you guys been doing that, and have you had any success with it? Do you continue to do it?
So we started doing it, I mean, probably like 7 years ago or something like that. And we've had there's been times when we had a lot of time to really push on it. And then other times when we didn't, when there was other stuff going on in our lives. We're not pushing so much on it now, because everything else, like we were talking about, is really all consuming when you're trying to just focus on being like the artist, the band, releasing singles, doing all this stuff.
Live now. We weren't playing live when we were working on sync.
Right. But we've done some of that where we're just trying to sign the stuff to these different publishing deals or these different libraries, and that's really time consuming. We've also, our song Liar that had with the big dance sequence and a music video that came about just through a free songwriting contest, and then there's been just some other stuff where like I happen to personally know some music supervisors or some people that needed some music, and so that happened, and then it was like a referral type of a thing for the next thing. So it's happened all different ways. And, sometimes it's lucrative, sometimes it's not. Sometimes there's a whole hours and hours and hours and hours that went into getting just the one thing,
When we moved back, when we left LA and playing live all the time with our rock band, and we moved back to the woods in Ohio, it seemed like the smartest thing to do, because we're out of LA. There's no record executives, there's no industry here. So we have the internet. And we have a small home studio. So what can we do? So we really focused on sync.
And it can be a really satisfying thing to do, to be able to have to fulfill someone else's vision and have your art be part of a bigger thing than your own little song or whatever. So it was really cool.
And it just so happens that she's amazing at capturing emotions. Like if a director would ask for, would send a song as a reference track and say, hey, don't rip it off, but make me feel the way this song makes me feel. Nikki can do that.
Thank you. Sometimes.
Well, you know what? That's a talent that a lot of people don't have, because I had the opportunity to go to Dublin last month. I was in a band that did a wedding over there, and I stayed and did some of my podcasts for a week. And nice. I'm in the Hard Rock Cafe at the hotel, it was a Hard Rock Hotel. And I started interviewing the guy that's working there, and all these people are like, what the heck's going on? And I just got in this headspace where I didn't care who was around. And everybody doesn't have that skill set. It's a skill set that's not, you just don't, you either have it or you don't. I don't necessarily think you can learn it. And maybe, Nikki, you've got an eye and an ear for that is tough to learn. Could you possibly teach that to somebody, or?
I think so.
Okay.
Sort of.
No, you couldn't.
Are we allowed
to disagree?
I mean, I feel like it's a lot easier when you just kind of have like that intuitive sort of like you're in touch with what it is about music and sounds that conjures up those feelings. And some people, maybe that's not as natural to them, so it would just be a lot harder.
Sure.
But I do think we can teach people things. They can get better at stuff.
So I know you guys have been busy. I don't want to keep you all night. I will ask you one quick thing. And a little touch point that I got, because you said you went from LA to Ohio. And I spent 7 years in Toronto, population almost 5 million, and moved back to Halifax, Nova Scotia, where it's less than 350,000. So I get the whole, I don't want to say it's you do it for different reasons, but has it helped you or set you back, do you feel, in moving from, that big mecca to where you are now?
It's helped us.
Yeah, but it's helped us specifically because we also got sober when we moved.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were a hot mess out there, and we were not going anywhere.
We were in a hamster wheel.
We were in a band, we were doing stuff, but it was not gonna
Sunset Strip. We were playing this one bar to pay for our lockout, pay the rent for our
yeah, and we had the lockout so we could rehearse to play that one bar.
Yeah,
so it was just this like nightmare.
Yeah.
And so for us coming out here, starting a family, taking music seriously, being sober, having a better lifestyle, working on ourselves, we were able to just get a lot further for sure than I think we would have if we would have stayed in LA and just died. So
well, and I think it's a great message, because I do some coaching with Matt Starr, who played drums with Ace Frehley, and he always talks about, in this day and age, location doesn't mean a thing now. You can literally do what you're doing from anywhere in the world. And so when somebody comes back and says they're not successful because of the location, that's just absolute nonsense. So there you go. You guys just proved it. Last question. Where can my viewers find out about you guys?
Well, we have music up on all of the platforms. So Spotify, Apple, whatever, iTunes, YouTube, all of those places. But we do have a lot of unreleased music, which is what we've been playing live, and we're dropping songs here and there. So we recommend going to hookedlikehelen.com and signing up for our free VIP membership. And we have previews of some of the unreleased music there. And we're looking for people to give us feedback, to listen and let us know what you think we should drop next. We're on all the social media, and it's us. Like, we answer all of the direct messages and all the comments. So Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Threads, YouTube Shorts,
All of it. We're not
All of
missing any, I
Yeah.
don't think.
so we want to connect with people that way. So that's where you can find us.
Yeah.
Nikki, Jon, Hooked Like Helen, thank you so much for doing this, kids.
Hey, thank
Absolutely.
you.
Thank
you
you.
for having us.
Peace out.